Well, here we are, going over the very final project for this course. Congratulations for making it this far in your learning journey this semester. I want to point out that your final case study project, while you have all the materials you need, it should come together fairly well, but it will take a bit of time to organize it and streamline it because you've gained a lot of valuable information on your student over the course of the semester, and you're going to need to streamline it down to where you're looking at just the essentials of this journey so far with this student and the growth they've made as a result of your time together. I do want you to note that while the final case study project is not due for final submission until May 13th, by 11:59 p.m. online, here using this assignment link, a rough draft of your case study is due to this case study peer feedback forum. You're going to post your case study here for your peers to review, and you're going to use kind, constructive language to tell one another what you liked, as well as, most importantly, since this is for helping them with their final submission, as well as errors you may have noticed in grammar or APA or maybe something they left off of the rubric that they forgot to mention in their final case study. So this needs to be a rough draft ready by May 8th. And then you're going to provide helpful feedback to 2 other learners by midnight of 5/11. So that gives you 2 days then to get any necessary revisions made before your very final draft. I mean submission, not draft. So if I click this link here, the assignment link, this is what I'm going to see. So this is a summary of how you are going to accumulate all your data and helpful information into one streamlined case study. So you've worked with this student, learning a lot through assessment, observations, the artifacts you've collected, instruction then that was based on the assessments you gave, and you've also had time for reflection on learning. Your lab posts across the course of the semester have been helpful receptacles of ideas and valuable interactions that you've recorded over the course of the semester. So I do urge you to not just look at what you have collected in perhaps a folder or a file on your computer, but remember to go back to the Moodle forum for your lab post discussions and revisit any good ideas there as well. Along with your case study, you need to submit your lab timesheet. So you will be submitting that on Moodle as a document of your time. So it needs to have been, initialed by the child's parents, and you will be uploading that as a image file. So just scan it into your computer. It is worth a good chunk of points, so make sure you've got your lab timesheet complete with no more than 10 hours toward planning, and then the other 20 need to go toward time that you spent face-to-face with the student for a total of 30 hours for this placement. So you are to creatively and engagingly share what you learned, and it's up to you if you want to submit more of a notebook portfolio type format with lots of writing, if you want to use a PowerPoint that has detailed notes under each slide, if you want to, because on a PowerPoint you could put images such as your observations, student work samples, key bulleted information that you learned, and then elaborate on it in written form underneath each slide. So you could do a little movie or podcast that you create, or some other multimedia presentation. You could use MoveNote if you wanted, so where you were just creating a streamlined PowerPoint and then speaking your presentation and sharing it in an audio-visual format. It's up to you, but you have to make sure that you have artifacts as well as reflection that shows that this student's learning journey has been valuable to them this semester. Doesn't mean they had to grow leaps and bounds or have everything perfect. They're not going to be that. But what growth have they showed? What do they still, as indicated by assessment, need to work on? And then you need to talk about your own professional learning. How did you grow as a result of this experience? What did you learn? And what will you take away into your future practice? As you think about students' learning, don't just summarize the strengths and weaknesses that were evident in your diagnostic spelling inventory that was submitted, weeks ago. Assessment and observation, analysis and application are ongoing cycles as you are teaching a student. So you need to have newer assessment data, not necessarily the whole inventory, but other artifacts, new samples of their writing, their reading abilities, so that you are able to get a true picture of what the child did at the beginning of the semester, how they grew in the middle of the semester, and what they've done by the end of the semester. The artifacts you should include are some of your observation notes. You don't need every single one of these items that you use through the course of the semester. You need just a sampling of every one of these items. So some of your key observation notes, key writing samples that are going to show the best and tell the best story about your student most clearly. You do need the outline of your tutoring sessions and activities, and if you recall, you shared that in a previous forum. I believe it was Lab Post 2. You need to tell me your basic lesson format and structure, an example of a lesson that you taught, a video clip of your student reading, and if you do that, please make sure your video link is, actually I'm going to change that formatting to unlisted, because unless you particularly share that link with anybody, that unlisted link is private. Just make sure before you do that you have secured parent permission. If the video clip was not able to be done, perhaps an audio clip of the student reading would be fine. Just let me know. But you do need to let the parents know that it will be an unlisted video, which means it's not on any public search engines, and unless you share the link or you have a lot of followers on your channel for YouTube, no one's going to see that video. And then I want you to think about what are additional items that may really show the student's learning and what I learned through the course of this semester. The project needs to have a reflective component. So it's not just artifacts. You're reflecting on why those artifacts are important. You are going to, and if you choose a paper format to write your reflection, that needs to be about 3 to 4 pages in a narrative form. If you choose a PowerPoint, each slide needs to have extensive narrative in the notes section so I understand what you're trying to say. These are ideas down here bulleted below that may be part of your reflection. Not every one of these needs addressed, but think about what are the students' literacy strengths and needs. What observations of literacy learning behaviors did you make about this student? What did you learn from the artifacts collected? Okay, so if you include an artifact, you have to explain how it contributes to your own thinking and the student's learning. Why is this good evidence? What were some interactions with the student and the candidate? That's you, the candidate. What literacy lessons did you teach the student? What changes did you note over time? And also, make sure you summarize your learning. What new thinking do you now have? How have you grown professionally? What was challenging about this experience? What was rewarding? And any additional information that you believe is important is welcome as well. Just don't make this go on too long. Some people got so detailed last year, they were telling me basically every single session summarized. I don't need that. I need an overview, a big picture of how this child started the journey, how you both progressed together from the beginning to the middle to the end of the semester. I don't need a blow-by-blow play of every single thing you did. You've got to streamline and find out what is key here, what needs to be conveyed the most. Again, as I said before, you're going to post this to the forum on May 8th. We're going to comment to one another, and we're going to make sure then by the end, by May 13th, we've revised anything that need revised, and then we're submitting for a final time. And this is your final. This serves as your final, so we're not meeting the week of finals week. If you have questions or concerns, I will be keeping office hours, but we are not formally meeting finals week. There is also a rubric, and I want to just let you know the spelling inventory assessment and analysis paper that you completed earlier in the semester, this is not the same assignment. That was just focusing on one assessment, what you took from it, and how it impacted your practice. This case study reflects an overview of everything that you've done, okay? So you just need to think about what's key here, what did I take away that was most valuable to my learning. I want you to really carefully consider the difference between full points versus partial points awarded for this project, okay? So look at this. If you have more than 5 artifacts, and it includes all of these, and they show a strong picture of the student's learning, then you're going to get full points. If you only include 3 to 5, then you're going to drop down 5 points automatically right there. Your reflection needs to tell the student's story. You need to reflect what are the strengths and the needs. What specific learning behaviors did I note that this child had? Talk about all these things, changes over time, and summarizing your personal growth. Now, some people got confused here. This is the reflections criteria, and we aligned the rubric to Ohio Standards 1.1, 1.2, and 3.3. You don't need to do anything with those standards there. You're going to select your own standards. I'm sorry, you're not. Erase that. You're not selecting any standards. These are the standards that demonstrate the outcomes you're meeting. Okay, this is for us. You need to be looking at this section here. This is the reflection criterion. After the reflection criterion is the literacy development criterion. And that means the artifacts in the reflection indicate you have developed a deep understanding of the student's development. And this is a big one. What implications does your learning have for the curriculum? How did what you learn impact your decisions for the curriculum and instruction and assessment over the course of the semester? And if you were to continue working with this student over the summer, what would be your main goals for him or her? Make sure you're valuing the diversity in the student's learning as well, that you're really showing that you know this child as a learner very well and have tailored lessons to meet those needs. This next criterion is professional appearance, and I really want to stress the importance of taking time to perhaps submit this, take this to the writing lab. We have free walk-in hours. You can also email them and ask for a specific time that fits your schedule, and they are happy to look over big projects for you to make sure that everything is formatted well and looks nice. Because this is where I dock a lot of points, is a lack of professional appearance. This is important. So I'm looking for no errors in mechanics. Very well organized, professional, and engaging in appearance. You will note that you lose 5 points if you have just basic information clearly stated, a professional appearance, and still no errors in mechanics. Grammar and spelling errors, especially when you're using if you choose to use a presentation format, need to be taken care of. Especially when you've got a presentation format, you don't even have as much typing to display on the screen, so it needs to be quality, it needs to be professional. So really use that writing lab. Relevance. This is the final section of our rubric. The case study is extremely relevant to the course material. Think about, we learned about phonics this semester, so how does that tie into this student's needs? And you need to show that you've added substantially to your knowledge about phonics and word study. So if you have questions about any of this, let me know. The other thing I've done, because this rubric has a lot of information in it, so if you go back to, let me pull this down real quick. If you go back here, the other resource I've given you is a case study checklist, and if you click that, this Google Doc appears, and it's just a quick note of what you need to have. You need the diagnostic spelling inventory, okay, that you gave. You need writing samples, observation notes. The teach, apply, share format of a lesson example is fine. Could be the one, if you taught it, it could be the one that you used at the end of your analysis paper. You needed the outline for the tutoring sessions. Again, that was in your second lab post, your timesheet, and any additional items like a running record, a comprehension sheet, anything that you did that shows the valuable learning the child has done. Be selective in the artifacts you pick so that you have sufficient time to really speak to each one and make sure it contributes to the picture as a whole. Well, congratulations on making it this far in the semester, and I look forward to seeing what you come up with. I look forward to reading these case studies or listening, depending on what format you use. Have a good week.